Good morning and welcome to Indie Interactive. Indie Interactive, where we talk about making great music, connecting with your audience, and growing your business. And my name is Bree Noble, and I run Women of Substance Radio and the Female Entrepreneur Musician, and I help female musicians grow their business in the Female Musician Academy. And I'm so excited that you guys are here with me today on Indie Interactive. I see a few of you are showing up right now, so I'm going to take a second before I jump into the content. While you guys are showing up, just say hi in the chat. And I am really keeping it real today with the story that I'm telling, and so in the vein of that, I'll be keeping it real with what's going on with me today because it has been a morning. My daughter went to the water park yesterday, and she got quite sunburned, and she woke up in the night very sick and has been constantly sick ever since. So I've been up since 3 a.m. I've gotten a lot of my work done in the last few hours for the day, so hopefully I can take a nap later. But that has been my day so far. Hopefully your day is going a lot better. But I'd love to say hi to you in the chat, so jump in the chat and let me know that you're here with me this morning on Indie Interactive. I'm going to get talking about a story that I want to tell you about a band that I was in back in the day where we really didn't have a clue what we were doing. And although I think we were talented and we had some, serious, we had some potential, but it didn't work out because we didn't know what we were doing. We had no clue how to promote ourselves as a band and as artists. So I'd love to hear from you guys. Have you been in an experience where you felt like, you or your band that you're in are super talented, you deserve to get, a lot of recognition for what you're doing, but for some reason, you're not making that traction. You're not getting anywhere with your band or your group. So let me know in the chat. I would love to find out if you guys have any experience with this. I know I do. There were several different situations when I was starting out where I just couldn't figure out why I wasn't getting any traction. And all of that, to say that I learned a lot of lessons early on, and I don't want you guys to have to experience those lessons. I want you to learn from my lessons so you don't have to. So the group that I was in, I want to kind of tell this a little story-wise and let you know, how this all unfolded. So I was in a group. It was actually an audition group. This girl started the group, and she was looking for, members, and she was a drummer. And so we kind of auditioned for the group. And so it was kind of her group, which was actually part of the problem, as I'll get to later. But she auditioned us, and she chose a couple of us, and we were going to be in this all-female group. And she had already planned everything out. Like, she had the name of the group, she had the branding all done. It was just like this turnkey thing that we were just going to step into, and we were going to be this awesome band that had this amazing branding, and we were going to just take the world by storm as a female alternative rock group. And she had this all planned out. So she was actually this is actually quite ironic because she worked in marketing in the corporate world. So she thought that if she, did her band the way that she did corporate campaigns, that we would be super successful. And it did not quite turn out that way. So one interesting thing about the group is that she had very meticulously picked out the branding for our band. And she was so sure that this branding was going to, skyrocket us for whatever reasons that she had. But the branding had nothing to do with any of us because we were auditioned. It's almost like, TLC or one of those groups that's kind of put together by other people. And we didn't necessarily identify with that branding. That had nothing to do with any of us, except for maybe her. And so that was one reason that that branding didn't work out, because none of us were like bought in to that branding. She should have created the band first and then decided on what the branding was going to be, because it just didn't fit the people that she ended up choosing. So that was one of the things that, you know, went wrong with this group. I'd love to find out from you guys in the chat if you've had trouble figuring out your branding, because I know that some of the students that I work with, they are having trouble figuring out how to get their branding and how to know what is going to work for them with branding that's going to still be authentic, because that is my biggest number one thing with branding is you need to be authentic. You can't adopt a brand that you don't identify with, because then it'll be clear. Like, even if you're trying to hide it, it'll be clear that you don't identify with this brand, which is what happened with this band. So that was the number one thing that went wrong. And let me go ahead and check the chat here, because I want to say hi to you guys. Hey, Matungi, how's it going? Let's see. Awesome. Oh, absolutely. So branding has been an issue for you, and I know it's an issue for a lot of people. So that was a major issue with this band. So let me finish telling the actual story of the band, and then I'll talk about more of the issues that we had. So she formed this band, and we practiced and we practiced, and we spent like a year practicing and writing songs and all that, never performing once, just practicing constantly. And then we decided that we were going to record a CD, and that was going to be our ticket, right? I mean, that is what a lot of people think when they record a CD. Like, once the world hears our music on CD, that is going to be our ticket. So we spent all this time in the studio recording this CD. Again, the girl that ran the band, she paid for the whole thing because she wanted to be in complete control of everything, because that's the kind of person she was. So, you know, she invested all this money in the CD, and we spent all this time recording it. And when the CDs arrived, and, you know, we got all these CDs, and we were tasked with going out and selling these CDs as members of the band, we had a very hard time selling them because nobody knew who we were. We had no fans. In fact, we had exactly 5 fans. Our husbands, the 3 of us female artists, our husbands, and the 2 teenage children of one of the members. Those are the only fans we had, because nobody knew about us. We had been practicing, we had been in the studio, we had never once been in front of an audience. And so when we came out with this CD, we had this piles of boxes that we were supposed to go out and sell, but yet nobody knew what we sounded like. Nobody even knew we existed. Why were they going to buy a CD from a completely unknown band? So I was tasked with selling like 20 CDs at first, and I had a heck of a time. Like, I was twisting people's arms. Even my family members, they're like, we don't know what you sound like. Why would I want to buy this? I have to hear it first. And, you know, so they weren't necessarily going to buy it up front. So then we had the CD, and we finally started performing, and we had absolutely no performing experience. So the performances that we did were very lackluster because we had no experience actually performing on a stage. And so then we're trying to sell these CDs, but our performance didn't match the sound that we were offering on the CD. And so people weren't necessarily going to buy our CDs based upon our performances because they weren't very good and compelling. So we had more of a problem trying to sell our CDs. Then the girl that started the band decided she was going to set up a website. And this is pretty early, like this is early 2000s, so you know there's no social media at this point, but she's setting up a website, and I guess she thought that once we set up that website, and put our CDs on CD Baby, like all these people would just flock to us because they just organically find us. Well, guess what? That didn't happen either. So after we recorded our CD and we performed in a couple of big venues, but we weren't really good enough to be in those venues. We used the CD to get ourselves in there, but our live performances were not up to snuff. And so we didn't sell very many CDs, and we just completely lost momentum. And within less than a year of recording the CD, we broke up. And it was not a pleasant or pretty breakup because, you know, we were tired. We had been working hard all this time, but we had gotten like no fruit from it. And so we were all frustrated with the way she was leading the band. We knew something was wrong, but we were all very naive and we didn't know what to do about it. And we were just feeling like this was going nowhere. And because of that, we, didn't have the best attitudes when we come to practice, and then people would get with each other and start fighting, and then, not very long after that, it was over. And that is why it didn't work out. And number one, the reason that it didn't work out is, as I said earlier, we were completely hidden. We were like, let's just, practice this thing, constantly, let's make the CD, and then we'll just do this big reveal, right? Well, no matter how much you practice, if you've not been on stage before together, you're not going to put on a good stage show. So it did not work well that way. We had exactly 5 fans, and we didn't have a good plan. We had no plan. Her plan was, let's make this CD, and then we'll put it out there and we'll get discovered. We'll get some reviews in the newspaper, and everyone will flock to our new website and they'll buy our CD. And that's not what happened because we didn't build any fans from the beginning. So we didn't build our stage show. We didn't build any fans. We had, even once we started doing stage shows, we didn't have fan stickiness, which is what I like to call it. Meaning that even if someone liked our show and liked our music, and even if they bought our CD, we had no way to keep in touch with them. Like absolutely none. We had no email list. We had nothing on our website that said, hey, sign up for updates when we're going to be performing in your area. Nothing. And so even if somebody did like us, there was no way for them to keep up with what we were doing. There was no way for us to keep up with them if they'd bought our CD to, find out how they liked it or invite them to new shows. There was nothing. And so we had no fan stickiness. Even if we had fans out there, we didn't even know they were there, and we had no way to communicate with them. So also, as I said, we did not test how we were on stage. We didn't test any of these songs in front of an audience to see if people liked them, if they were going to be good songs for us to be performing in the future. We just wrote these songs, we practiced them, and we recorded them, not knowing if they would even be successful with an audience. And that was another reason we didn't succeed. And finally, the other major reason we didn't succeed is because we were not allowed to divide and conquer. What I mean by that is she was completely in charge of the band. She would not let us go out there and do any marketing. Everything had to go through her. She's a bit of a control freak, or like a humongous control freak. So we couldn't go out there and actually promote things ourselves without having this universal front. Or we couldn't go out there and do things that we were good at. If I was good at marketing online, I couldn't do that because I might do something that she wouldn't like. Or, if another person was good at making posters and going out and putting them in places, nope, she couldn't go do that because it had to run through the main person. So we were not utilizing all the resources that we had in order to get the word out there about our band. And, figuring out how we're going to get these fans and keep these fans. So that is kind of my, heartfelt, like, embarrassing story, because in those old days, I didn't know any of this stuff. I was completely naive. This was really the first band experience that I had that lasted more than a minute. And I thought that they knew what they were doing because she'd started this band and she was a marketing person in her corporate world. I thought she knew what she was doing, and I just trusted that instead of thinking for myself and getting educated. Like, that was another thing. Like, she thought she was educated because she was a marketing person, but the rest of us didn't have any education on how to market music, and so we couldn't give any input. We basically just let her run the show. So all that to say that had we had my 5 stages of music career growth, we would have had a chance of succeeding, because we would have, number one, practiced a whole bunch in front of audiences before we had something to sell, before we had a CD that could get us into bigger venues. We would have a real stage show that was a good stage show. We would, have moved up in venue sizes. So when we got to the big venues and we got those opportunities, which we actually did, but we really didn't capitalize on them because we weren't ready to be there. We would have not spent money on recording this CD until we had tested all of the songs to make sure audiences loved these songs, that they were the ones that needed to be on the one CD we were going to put our money into and record. We would have built up our fan base and found a way to create stickiness where we could communicate with these fans through emails, through, had we had social media, through all the ways that we have now to communicate with fans. We had none of that. And had I had the 5 stages of music career growth, we would have been in a completely different place by the time that we created our CD. So the reason I'm talking about this is because I am going to be giving my workshop that is all about the 5 stages of music career growth tomorrow, the Musician's Profit Path. And if you would like to find out more about those 5 stages, if you're not already in working through those 5 stages and you want to find out what those are and how you can learn how to move through those more quickly and easily, you'll find out exactly where you are right now in those 5 stages and what you should be focusing on, and even more importantly, what you should not be focusing on, so you don't waste time and money and so you can move to the next stage faster. Then I would love for you to go to musiciansprofitpath.com, and I'm going to be doing that training tomorrow at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. And for anyone watching the replay here, that tomorrow is actually Thursday. So you can sign up for that at musiciansprofitpath.com, and I hope to see many of you guys there. I'm going to check and see what's going on in here. I love to get your guys' reaction to my story. Let's see what's going on here. Oh, cool. The 5 stages make a lot of sense. Thank you, Annie. Yeah, I mean, and let's be clear, like, I created the 5 stages from learning through mistakes like this particular experience and many others that happened afterward, until I finally figured out the right way to do this stuff and in the right order. But I created these 5 stages so other people don't have to go through the kinds of experiences that I did with this band. And so I know that many of you have done the stages out of order, and that's okay. Like, had I had the education and the knowledge of the 5 stages when I was in this band, I could have gone back and filled in the holes and gotten, built our fan base and then been able to sell that CD, even though we had made it, early on. We could still go back and sell that. We would have built up our live show to where it was at the level of the CD, and we could have done really well with that, but we didn't know about the 5 stages. We didn't know what the heck we were doing. And even though we had talent only takes you so far. So that's the reason I created the 5 stages, and I know that it will help you to, understand where you're at in your career right now and figure out where you're going. So that is what I have for you today. I'm going to go back and attend to my poor daughter with the heat stroke who is not feeling so well. And I will see you guys next week at noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific on Wednesday on Indie Interactive.